Time now for a check of our top stories, and Bahamians will be returning back to VAT. Officials made the announcement during the opening ceremony of Parliament. Among other new changes they announced there. Our One Caribbean News' Deandra Hamilton reports.
Bahamians have never really taken to value-added tax. Introduced by the Perry Christie administration of the PLP, hiked under the Hubert Minnis-led FNM government, now it's back to VAT again. This time, the promise comes in the speech from the throne at the opening of Parliament.
My government will amend the VAT Act to lower the rate of VAT across the board to 10%.
The promise was a linchpin in the Brave Davis New Day election campaign. Now the Prime Minister is formalizing his pitch, which will cut down on government revenue, but could stimulate growth and is certainly a savings to the average consumer. An interesting proposition given the economic dire straits of the Bahamas, including a recent downgrade by Moody's, plunging the Bahamas further into junk status.
The government will focus on issues that will rescue, restore, and strengthen the economy. My government will pursue strategies to address infrastructural needs of the country. My government will pursue measures to stabilize public finances and increase public revenue. My government will implement a debt management plan to address the
And it is Bahamians first for the best positions and best paying jobs.
And the Commercial Enterprises Act to ensure that when jobs are being filled, Bahamians receive the highest priority.
Parliament in the Bahamas was opened on October 6 away from the usual historic venue. Instead, new senators and members of Parliament held their first session in this new regime at the Bahamar Resort.
And that was our Deandra Hamilton reporting there. Meantime, a 5-year study on suicide is to be launched next month in Guyana, a place that has been recording high suicide rates. The Minister of Health, Dr. Frank Anthony, said this comes during challenges faced by the country in recognizing and understanding risk factors associated with suicide. The study is being funded by the National Institute of Health in the United States.
We have some of the world's best researchers from Columbia University who would be joining persons from the Ministry of Health here to do a complete study over the next 5 years about the risk factors relating to suicide. And while they're doing that is to come up with programs of how we can mitigate against some of these factors.
And Minister Anthony said government has been working to train physicians at the primary health care facilities to detect mental health issues.
I want to get people better trained to recognize these conditions, and once they're able to do that, we'll then be able to catch these conditions, so to speak, much earlier, and hopefully we'll be able to take preventative action so that the conditions do not escalate.
And the health minister's disclosure came ahead of the World Mental Health Day, I should say, which was observed on Sunday. Data from the Ministry of Human Services and Social Security shows that since the pandemic started, there have been 147 suicides in Guyana. Most of those, 120 exact, were among men. Additionally, for the first half of this year, 30 children have attempted suicide. And meantime, healthcare workers have been fighting the COVID pandemic on the front lines for more than a year and a half. And now we're learning the mental health toll that it's taking on them. Michael George shows us how a new study uses technology to monitor stress among doctors and nurses.
Dr. James Marion is a gastroenterologist, but when the first wave of COVID devastated New York, he was asked to help the sickest patients.
They wanted me to run a 14-bed COVID unit. The hospital was filling up pretty rapidly.
He was one of thousands of healthcare workers coping with stress of long hours, PPE shortages, and the worry of catching COVID.
I think my biggest fear was that I'd bring it home to my family.
So this is interesting in this study.
Doctors Robert Hurton and Zahi Fayyad at Mount Sinai are studying the psychological effects of the pandemic on frontline healthcare workers in what they call the Warrior Watch study. Doctors and nurses wear Apple Watches to monitor their heart rate and fill out surveys to measure stress, resilience, emotional support, and quality of life.
Healthcare workers we're finding have increasing rates of burnout, anxiety, are at risk of developing post-traumatic stress disorder, and have ongoing long-term effects from the stress.
They also found healthcare workers who could overcome stress and had strong emotional support were protected.
There are multiple ways you could build resilience. It all relates to lifestyle, your exercise, improve your sleep patterns, and learn how to do breathing exercises to be able to deal with things when they come to face you.
Dr. Marion took part in the research and says he's motivated to improve his mental and physical health.
It has totally changed my relationship with exercise and with staying fit. I was running before, but now I'm doing pacing, I'm doing interval training.
And that's helping his body and mind.
And last week, Bamba Camboya, a Chicago-based Puerto Rican group, gave a workshop on traditional Bamba music and dance at a theater in Pennsylvania located on Mercyhurst University's campus. Isley Gooden has the story.
To celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month, a Chicago-based Puerto Rican group, Bamba Camboya, gave a workshop on traditional Bamba music and dance in Mercyhurst's Taylor Little Theater.
Honestly, I found it really interesting. It's really cool to see other people's culture. So I think it's really interesting and it's really fun, and I like how they actually included us and made us, get up and dance.
Mercyhurst University's Foreign Language Department started planning this back in June.
It was very important for us to, as a department, to set up an experience that was authentic for our students so that they can be exposed to culture outside of the classroom and understand that culture and language don't just exist in this bubble that is the classroom.
I really enjoyed it a little more from a music perspective because I am a music student here. So I really enjoyed the getting up and the dancing because, of course, as soon as that beat drops, I just want to move.
They even allowed them to join the band on stage.
There's a phrase in Spanish where you say, lo que hay es candela, which means that what you'll basically expect is just greatness, fire.
Students love the talent the university brings to Erie.
When I have the time, it's great to come out and, see what all the school has going on.